Good evening, Tansei and Neen. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. A state of emergency has been declared in the Northwest Territories where more than 200 wildfires are burning. Thousands of residents have been forced to evacuate their homes. More than 100 Canadian soldiers have been sent in to help battle the fires and aid in evacuations. The territory's remoteness and small population have made firefighting efforts difficult. The fires are also approaching the capital of Yellowknife. Evacuation alerts have been issued for 3 areas in the region.
There's a lot of work on what we call fire breaks, which is basically clear cutting 100-meter widths of trees. So being that buffer between the fire and the community. The territorial government is also doing a lot of offensive and defensive firefighting on the fire, and they're also setting up fire breaks. They're including some wet fire breaks. They're looking to do a fire retardant line, and so all of these together are multiple lines of defense.
In the meantime, to the south, the mayor of Hay River on the shore of Great Slave Lake is urging all residents to leave.
Send out an alert to let you know that it's coming at us, or to let you know to get to the muster station or wherever, because we don't have communications.
5 communities are under mandatory evacuation orders, including the smaller town of Enterprise. Much of that community has been destroyed by fire. The communities of Fort Smith and Jean Marie River are also under evacuation orders. Some people forced out have been flown into northern Alberta by military aircraft. Many highways in the territory have been closed, and officials are calling the rescue effort one of the largest in the territory's history. April Breckhart-Glacar and her family had to evacuate from their home in Hay River earlier in the week, and she joins us now from Edmonton, Alberta. April, thank you so much for joining us here. We really appreciate it, and I can only imagine what you and others are going through in this time. We'll start with this first question here, and what was it like to get the notice to evacuate?
It was very fast. Unless I missed it on my phone, we did not get a stage 1 or stage 2 notice that things were coming, our direction. I think it happened so quickly. The winds were so strong. The fire moved an incredible distance on Sunday in one day. I believe it was 50 kilometers in one day. And it cut cross country to the highway. And so we got the notice, and it was go. It wasn't pack to go, be ready. It was go. So it wasn't the first evacuation for us. So it was not entirely shocking, and to be totally honest, I still had things packed from the fire evacuation in May. When we came back from that evacuation, I washed up sleeping bags from the truck, and had water ready and in crates to load. So it was a little. It wasn't new, sadly.
Well, April, how would you describe some of the scenes that you were seeing while evacuating?
Oh, well, when we first left, the smoke had been building. We were seeing smoke building during the day, and just before 3 o'clock, I was outside watering my flowers, and fairly big pieces of ash started falling, but we hadn't been evacuated at that point, and it's like, this is really ominous. Something's not feeling very good about this. And so when we left, it was about the time we packed up, put sprinklers on our roof, and loaded dogs and everybody. It was about 10 after 6 in the evening when we drove out. And it was very smoky, and it very soon turned to an orange overcast sky and billowing smoke. The smoke was really billowing and moving a lot, very erratic winds. And as we drove further, within a 30-minute span, we drove into really what looked like a hellstorm. It was, you could feel the heat inside the vehicle. If I rolled the windows down, I could hear the fire. and it was very unnerving, and there was so much flame still ahead of us that we didn't really know what we were going to drive into. We just drove to get through, and it was it seemed very vicious. The fire seemed very vicious and aggressive and quick, and you know, we left, and not maybe 10-15 minutes behind us, the highway closed.
So you're in Edmonton right now, right, April? So what type of assistance, if any, are you receiving while you're evacuated?
Well, right now, we're in Edmonton, and we've been to the St. Albert Evacuation Center. Folks there have been super helpful and great. They've registered us as evacuees and are offering through work with, I think, the Alberta government and the Northwest Territories government, hotel accommodations for a few days to help people get on their feet, and just, you know, there's medical attention there, there's pet attention there. They've got rooms available for people with animals as well. And so it's been very good here. As we were evacuating, our first stop was in High Level, and there was no facilities available there for us. And the information was not available because the Northwest Territories had a communications blackout due to the fire taking out lines. And so we had no internet, no cell phone, and no data for Facebook or any other form of communication. Basically, it was solid once we got to High Level.
Well, just on that note, April, I wanted to ask, is there any word on your home and how the community of Hay River is doing, and maybe any word on when you may be able to return to Hay River?
No word on our home. Us, like everybody else, is definitely praying that we go back to a home. We know what fire can do. We know we just recently saw devastation at Haudenosaunee First Nation, and then we've seen pictures since of Enterprise. So we haven't heard any official timeline, but it sounds like we should expect to be out at least 1 week, and some indications are that it could be longer until communication's restored, and right now all resources are being used to keep that fire off of the town of Hay River, and the same in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories as well. All resources are just trying to do what they can to protect the community.
Right. Well, April, we
may be here for a bit.
Okay, well, that's certainly something that we'll be watching. And April, we do appreciate your time, and obviously we hope nothing but the best for you and everyone affected by these fires. And we certainly appreciate your time in this moment. So we'll have to leave it there. But thank you so much for joining us here today, April.
All right, thank you. Thank you for covering this story, and to everybody who's opening their arms and communities helping us. It makes a difference. So. Thank you.
Well, the impact of severe drought has never been more obvious than in the last few months, especially to those occupying their traditional territories on the Nitaskinan of Obichuan in Quebec. When forest fires broke out at the end of May, Chief and Council ordered residents off the land, but some stayed behind to protect their homes at all costs. Here's a report by Shisham Bacon, translated and read by Lindsay Richardson.
Un tornade! Un tornade végétal!
Fait que là, on est au 23 juin.
Oui, toujours le 23 juin.
Puis c'est ici que ça a brûlé.
Ouais, ici, c'est un tison qu'on a oublié. La motoneige aussi a passé au feu, puis il y en a un autre plus loin là-bas. Là. Un skidoo est brûlé.
It's a day Gilles Tchatché won't soon forget. His community surrounded by fire. It's ahead of them, behind them, almost blinding.
On est parti avec nos roses, on a fait partie des ponts, puis on a commencé à arroser un peu partout là-bas également, sur le bord du chemin. Là, puis, une bonne partie de la nuit. J'ai quitté ici à 5 h du matin, épuisé. Là. Puis est arrivé avec avec sa hausse.
According to this traditional chief of the Tchatché family of Abidjan, the fire had its own wind and was even traveling underground.
Il a commencé à prendre feu, puis ça vent de saut, ça va sur la terre, parce que c'est sec, parce qu'on n'a pas eu de pluie pendant un mois et demi. Là.
The dangers were clear. Therefore, for everyone's safety, the Atikamekw Council of Abidjan issued a letter ordering residents to leave the premises.
Puis nous autres, on a décidé de rester parce qu'on voulait garder ce qu'on avait réussi à sauver.
But Tchatché and the owners of other cottages in the area didn't have much to fight with. Here, he shows us what he called his defense system when the fires broke out.
Tout ce que j'avais, c'est ça, puis mes chaudières d'eau. J'ai fait des élastiques pour pas perdre mon eau, mes couvertes dessus. Je remplissais mes chaudières avec ça. J'ai fait des élastiques pour... parce que quand on met ça après le pick-up en arrière, ça brasse, puis si on met pas ça, il reste quasiment plus d'eau après, quand on arrive sur place.
It was a 45-day fight to save his home and the 20 other neighboring chalets. Over the weeks, reinforcements arrived from Manawan, Wimotashi, and Abidjan, including Roslin Awashish, an Atikamekw from Abidjan who didn't hesitate to offer help to protect Mother Earth and the cottages at risk.
On avait déjà eu des chalets qui avaient déjà passé. C'était ça qui était désolant, là. Voir les chalets passer au feu, puis c'est toute une vie. Hein. C'est nos grands-parents, puis aujourd'hui, c'est nous autres qui occupent le territoire.
Eventually, the equipment improved, and they began using motor pumps like this one, which improved the likelihood of reducing fire damage.
Bien, c'est sûr qu'il y a des risques dans tout ce qu'on fait. Oui, j'ai toujours considéré cette possibilité-là, mais tu sais, quand ton heure vient, elle arrive. Quand c'est pas ton heure, ça vient pas.
This water bottle may seem common, but for Jude Tchatché, it's now a symbol of survival.
Aujourd'hui, ma vision a changé concernant les bouteilles d'eau. On a utilisé, moi personnellement, j'en ai pris peut-être une caisse de 24, sinon plus, de bouteilles d'eau pour éteindre le feu qui a commencé à brûler en arrière des chalets. Courir un peu partout pendant que les autres ils essayent de ralentir avec leur pompe ici, de l'autre côté du chemin. Là.
Now that calm is returning, he says he's grateful for the help and support, but still sad to see this devastation. Now comes time to continue the renovations Tchatché started before the fires arrived. A story by Shashan Bacon, APTN National News, Abidjan, Quebec.
Well, our thoughts are certainly with everyone affected by the wildfires, and we are hoping for the best. All right, we need to step aside for just a moment here. We'll have more news when we come back. Welcome back to APTN National News. Local media was abuzz after Quebec Superior Court ruled it had jurisdiction to hear a case which calls on the removal of Governor General Mary Simon because she does not speak French. Simon, the first Indigenous Governor General, attended a federal day school in Quebec's Nunavik region. She promised to learn French when first appointed in 2021. Ottawa argued that only the federal court could hear the case, but Quebec Superior Court Justice Catherine Pichet ruled that Simon cannot be considered a federal officer because she was technically appointed by Queen Elizabeth II. The federal government did not appeal the judgment and told APTN by email that it could not comment because the case is before the court. The challenge was filed last summer by a group of Quebecers who want Simon's appointment declared null and void.
Ça n'a rien à voir avec la personne qui occupe le poste de gouverneur général en tant que tel, mais bien la Constitution, mais bien la loi. On pense que le gouvernement fédéral a fait une erreur, qu'il a enfreint les dispositions linguistiques prévues à la Charte canadienne des droits et libertés. Et on pense important, non seulement pour le cas présent, mais surtout pour l'avenir, de régler cette question.
A familiar face in Saskatchewan Indigenous politics has thrown his hat into the ring to be the next leader of the Assembly of First Nations. David Pratt is serving his second term as a vice chief with the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. He is a member of the Musquepetung First Nation in southern Saskatchewan. An election for national chief was made necessary after Roseanne Archibald was ousted from the position in June. That vote will be held in December. Pratt is the first candidate to announce his intentions to become national chief. He had this to say on Wednesday on why he is seeking the AFN's top job.
What we've witnessed the last few years at the AFN and a lot of the issues that we're facing and seeing the lack of movement on a number of our very important files. And my experience working here and building consensus within our region, as well as across the country and with other regions, compelled me. And I think that I could do a good job. And, I think I could be able to build that consensus and bring our chiefs together. And
two political party leaders running in Manitoba's upcoming election spoke at the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Annual General Assembly today. NDP leader Wab Kinew and Liberal leader Dougald Lamont both spoke of their support for searching the Prairie Green landfill just outside of Winnipeg, which is believed to hold the remains of at least 3 First Nations women.
We're trying to make Manitoba into the place that doesn't leave anybody behind, that remembers who each and every person is, and that lives up to that phrase, every child matters. Every person in Manitoba has a gift. And so that's what I want to work on with you. Not just the policy, but the philosophy, the mission, the vision to make this place better. And I know we can make life better.
Now, we were also committed to funding the search for the Prairie Green landfill, as well as funding further cold case investigations. After we announced our support for funding the search at Prairie Green, we were contacted by a family who lost a loved one almost 50 years ago. There are 66 cold cases in Manitoba, so we will also take those cases and have them investigated by an outside prosecution service to make sure that nothing has been left behind.
Incumbent Premier Heather Stephenson did not attend the assembly but was invited. She does not support a search of the landfill, and we will have more on the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Annual General Assembly tomorrow. Well, earlier in the day, Wab Kinew did a campaign-style speech in Winnipeg. Addressing crime and justice, he promised to bring the hammer down on drug dealers if elected this fall. Kinew addressed the drug epidemic plaguing communities all over the province, saying the NDP would make Manitoba safer by introducing the Unexplainable Wealth Act targeting drug traffickers. He says the PC government has only cracked down on the addicted while being soft on traffickers.
We've seen too much of this in our province, and our opponents are only proposing to make it worse, where correctional facilities become gangster university, turning small-time offenders with addictions into hardened criminals. We have to do better in Manitoba. Yes, we need to ensure that we get someone off the street when they're doing something bad, but that's only the first step. From there, we need to address the trauma and addictions that are driving people to do bad things.
All right, it's that time for one final break. Photo of the day and weather are still to come. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. This was the view last night as Clarence Jones was flying a drone and he was able to capture this beauty of a photo of the Skeena Crossing train bridge located near Highway 16 crossing the Skeena River. Thanks so much for sharing that one, Clarence. That is a great photo there. If you would like to share a photo across the nations, send those pics to share@aptn.ca and be sure to tune in each day. All right, now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Beginning on the East Coast, 20 in St. John's and 25 in Halifax, 24 in Cartwright and 21 in Kuujjuaq, 25 degrees in Quebec City and 29 in Montreal, 27 degrees in Toronto and 26 in North Bay, 18 degrees in showers in Wawa and 20 in showers in Sioux Lookout, 19 and some smoke from the wildfires up north in Churchill and 23 in Norway House, 20 degrees in Barons River and a bit smoky and 23 in Winnipeg, 31 degrees in North Battleford and 33 in Swift Current, clear and 25 in Buffalo Narrows and 22 in Stony Rapids. Continuing west at 24 in Fort Chippewa and 24 in Peace River. 31 degrees in Edmonton and 37 in Lethbridge. 25 degrees in Campbell River and 25 in Quesnel. 18 degrees in Sands Pit and 21 in Fort Nelson. 16 degrees in Whitehorse and 19 in Dawson. 18 degrees in Norman Wells and 17 in Yellowknife. 17 in Colville Lake and 19 in Inuvik. 12 degrees in Cambridge Bay and 15 in Whale Cove. 18 degrees in Arctic Bay and 9 degrees in Clyde River. Where are all the women? Might be a question you ask yourself when looking at the art on museum and gallery walls. But a new exhibit at the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre in Winnipeg hopes to answer that question by focusing solely on Indigenous female artists. Titled, "Where Are All the Women?" The exhibit explores the art made by Indigenous women over the course of the centre's almost 55-year history. It features artistic mediums from jingle dresses to birch bark biting and explains the importance each artist holds in her craft through artist biographies. The exhibit will run throughout the month. Exhibit curator Danielle Mason says it's a great way to learn about female creators who we might not hear of otherwise in the mainstream.
I know for me growing up, the only people I saw on the walls were like Van Gogh and Picasso and just these like very status quo male artists that didn't really have a lot of diversity or representation for me personally. And a lot of the artists that we have featured in this exhibit kind of share that sentiment where they didn't see anybody who looked like them on the walls, so, or see any names that they could kind of relate to. So we wanted to kind of focus on representing not only like women, but like the minorities especially.
Certainly seems like a great exhibit there, one that if you're in the area, you should definitely check out. All right, that is all we have for you tonight on APTN National News. For the latest on any of our stories, be sure to visit our website, aptnnews.ca. For all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Miigwech, Kinanaskwitin, and have a great night.